Namo Buddha, everyone. My name is Sunil Patil, and I am the host for today's Dhamma session. I welcome all participants to a weekly Dhamma learning session. And topic for today's Dhamma session
Namo Buddha,
is
everyone. My name is Sunil Patil, and I am the host for today's Dhamma session.
And topic for today's Dhamma session is the passage of Buddha's teachings. And the speaker for today's Dhamma session is Dr. Surachai Unchern, former faculty of Pharmaceutical Sciences, Chulalongkorn University, Thailand. Let me introduce our today's speaker first. Dr. Surachai Unchern. Dr. Surachai, a retired scholar, researcher, 73 years of age, who had been a faculty staff teaching pharmacology in Faculty of Pharmaceutical Sciences, Chulalongkorn University for 36 years, 1974 to until 2010. In 2003, Dr. Surachai received a certificate honor as a role model teacher from Chulalongkorn University Faculty Senate. During his professional career, Surachai visited Japan, mostly University of Tokyo, many times for PhD study and conducting research in neuropharmacology. After retirement from Chulalongkorn University, he was employed as a faculty staff of Medicine, Siam University. It's a private university for another 4 years. Due to physical health problems, Dr. Surachai had retired from Siam University in 2016 and then calmly relaxed at home. During July 2017 to June 2018, Dr. Surachai took Bhikkhu ordination in Buddhist Thai temple, Vaishali, Bihar, Madhya Pradesh, India, and spent a number of time teaching Dhamma to Indian Samaneras and Samaneris. After leaving Buddhist monkhood, Dr. Surachai turned to be an active researcher on Theravada Buddhism. Up to now, he continuously explores and investigates the genuine Buddha's teachings, then propagates what he considers as an accurate Dhamma to other international Buddhists. To begin with, I will recite Trisharan Panchashila. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Buddham saranam gacchami, dhammam saranam gacchami, sangham saranam gacchami, dutiyampi buddham saranam gacchami, dutiyampi dhammam saranam gacchami, dutiyampi sangham saranam gacchami, tatiyampi buddham saranam gacchami, tatiyampi buddhammam saranam gacchami, tatiyampi sangham saranam gacchami. Panatipata veramani sikkhapadam samadhiyami. Adinnadana veramani sikkhapadam samadhiyami. Kamesu miccachara veramani sikkhapadam samadhiyami. Musavada veramani sikkhapadam samadhiyami. Sura meraya maccapamadatthana veramani sikkhapadam samadhiyami. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. Now, may I please request Dr. Surachai for the Dhamma talk today. And today's topic is the passage of Buddha's teachings. Sir, up to you.
So can I proceed now?
Yes, sir, you can proceed.
Okay, thank you. Okay. Good morning from Thailand to all participants in Dhamma USA forums. Today, I have a great pleasure to share my knowledge with you on the topic of the passage of Buddha teachings. In this case, I try to present my lecture in a very simple, straightforward, and easy understanding way. So this is my agenda for today's presentation. I would like to share with you the preservation and propagation of Buddha teaching from the Buddha era to nowadays, including Buddha is the greatest of teachers. How did Buddha teaching transfer to today? Rehearsals, memorizations, and oral transmission of Buddha teachings. Conservation of Buddha teachings by Buddhist councils. And finally, I would like to briefly overview on the topic of Tipitaka, which is record teaching of Buddha. So let's start now. Buddha is the greatest of teachers. As you know, Buddhism widespread to become the most popular and prominent teaching in ancient India during Buddha times. In addition, today, Buddhism remains as one of the most successful religions in the world and is still spreading and gaining popularity. The question is why? The answer is the Buddha was so successful in distributing his teachings. In summary, Buddha's great compassion, unique abilities, excellent teaching method, skills as a communicator, ability to understand listeners, and dedication as a teacher, altogether made Buddha such a great teacher. How did Buddha teaching transfer to today? Originally, Buddha teaching passed on by oral transmission, mouth-to-mouth transmission. Because in Buddha era, people were used to remember things by heart or memorization, as writing was not a common practice in that day. Therefore, after Buddha's passing away, his teachings were handed down orally from one generation to the next over 300 to 400 years. And it took 3 Buddhist councils to finalize Buddha teaching into what we call Tipitaka. Tipitaka was written down on palm leaves in the 5th council around 2073 years ago. Nowadays, Buddha teachings are accessible to anyone in anywhere in the world through various forms of media. Deliverance of Buddha teachings are what we call Buddha Vajana or words of Buddha. Throughout 45 years after enlightenment, Buddha traveled from place to place, mainly in northern India, teachings in Makati or Makot language. The path out of sufferings to diverse range of peoples, including kings and rulers, followers of other religions, and ordinary people, as well as celestial beings or Deva. After listening to Buddha teachings, vast number of people become Buddha disciples and followers. Many of them attain various state of Arya Pukala, or noble persons, or paths of liberations, escape from human sufferings and cycles of birth and death, or samsara. In addition, during 3 months of rainy season or rain retreat, Buddha stay at one monastery and teach the doctrine to whoever visit that monastery. So Buddha spent all the times to teach people. Rehearsals, memorization, and oral transmission of Buddha teachings. It is necessary to preserve Buddha teaching in order to maintain Buddhism for next generations. By the way, great efforts had been made to preserve Buddha teaching even when Buddha was still alive. The initial rehearsal of Buddha teaching was done in Pawa, the capital of Mala, in mango grove of Junta, a goldsmith. It evolved comprising 500 people for half day under support of Mala kings of Pawa. The motivation for this rehearsal is as follows. Near the end of Buddha's lifetime, Nikanta Natabut, father of Jainism, passed away. Disciples had failed to collect his teachings, so they divided and engaged in arguments so as to what exactly the teacher had preached. In these connections, Junta Thera brought this news to Buddha, who recommended that all the Sangha should take part in rehearsings or jointly reciting Dhamma to ensure sustainable existence of teachings for benefits of Sangha communities. At the time, Sariputta, I will pronounce the name in Thai fashion, which is the chief, who is the chief the chief disciples of Buddha, addressed this matter to the Sangha. The problem with Jainism arose because the founder teachings has not been collected and compiled. Therefore, disciples of Buddha should conduct a rehearsal to collect and compile his teaching so that uniform standard could be established. Sariputta then demonstrated how a rehearsal should be conducted right before the Buddha and the assembly of Sangha. In this case, he collected Buddha teachings and explained them in group of itemized Dhamma according to number of items involved, ranging from group of 1 to group of 10. And once the rehearsal by 500 people was over, Buddha expressed his approval and endorsement to those rehearsed teachings. And this is the initial rehearsals in Buddhism. This procedure is then called Sankiti or Sankhayana and translated into English as rehearsals or mutual recitation. As well, it is often referred to as the Buddhist councils. The primary purpose is to preserve original Buddha teachings as accurately as possible. And duties of participants is to collect, check, rehearse, and review Buddha teachings. any points of teaching that deviate from original Buddha Vajana or words of Buddha are to be corrected accordingly. And finally, the Sangha chant with the correct Buddha teaching in harmony or together. Therefore, register them to memory and then orally passes them to others and hand down to future generations. In fact, to the best of my knowledge, there are inconsistent number of Buddhist councils worldwide. However, in strict Theravada Buddhism, for example, in Sri Lanka, there are only 5 acceptable Buddhist councils after Buddha lifetimes. This Buddhist council conserve Buddha teaching. They include the first Buddhist council took place around 543 BCE before Christian era in India. This council recite and reaffirm Dhamma and Vinaya in order to preserve Buddha teachings. The second Buddhist council took place around 443 BCE in India as well. In these councils, 10 disputed points of Vinaya rule led to a breakup in Buddhist Sangha community, so-called Great Schisms. And then the third Buddhist council, around 250 BCE in India. The purpose of this council is purification of the Sangha by King Asok and sending of missionary people to 9 different regions, including Sri Lanka. And then the fourth Buddhist council, around 244 BCE in Sri Lanka. This council is largely known by general Buddhists. And then the fifth Buddhist council took place around 50 BCE in Sri Lanka. And this council led to the formation of what we call Tipitaka. So let me explain in detail about each Buddhist council. Starting from the first one. Although Sariputta set an example of how rehearsal should conduct, he did not live long enough to continue with his work. Why? Because he passed away before Buddha did. However, the task of rehearsing Buddha teaching was carried on by another Buddha disciple, namely Mahakassapa Thera, who was the most senior bhikkhu when Buddha attained Parinirvana. Mahakassapa Thera learned of Buddha passing away 7 days later, when he was traveling accompanied by a large group of his pupils. On hearing this news, many of his pupils, who were still worldly beings or concerned with material values, started to weep and cry over Buddha passing away. However, a bhikkhu named Supata, who had been ordained in his old age, said to them, "Why bother to weep at all? It is night that Buddha." So in the meantime, Mahakassapa Thera has to travel to Kusinara and preside over the cremation of Buddha under auspices of Malak king. When the cremation was over, Mahakassapa Thera continued on his plan and invited senior Arahant for the rehearsals. All the Arahant that Mahakassapa Thera invited all met Buddha in person, listening to his teachings, and had regularly held discussion and cross-checking one another, thereby knowing what constitutes Buddha teaching. The rehearsal took 3 months to prepare before taking place at the Sattapan Kuha cave on Mount Vepara outside Ratchakrut. Under auspices of King Achasatru, this process took 7 months to complete. In these councils, Mahakassapa Thera presided over the assembly of 500 senior Arahants and also act as questioner about teachings, which were divided into 2 major domains, namely doctrine or Dhamma and discipline or Vinaya. In this case, Dhamma refers to teaching on the truth of all things, along with our ways of practice advised by Buddha. And Vinaya refers to collections of rules prescribed by Buddha that regulate the conduct of Bhikkhu and Bhikkhuni. It is notable that Abhidhamma and Unchern commentary or Atthakatha were also included in Dhamma domain. Two famous senior Bhikkhu were selected for their accurate retentions of birth of Buddha and expertise in each domain of teachings, namely Anantera, Anontera in Thai pronunciation. Buddha personal attendants who had always listened to Buddha teachings and known by heart all discourses delivered by Buddha. He was assigned to recite or to recite Dhamma. Upali Thera, a senior Bhikkhu, is personally praised by Buddha as excellent in Vinaya and known all of disciplinary rules that Buddha had prescribed on different occasions. He was chosen as leader in clarifying issues related to Vinaya. Two Thera recite Buddha's teaching to the assembly. Then Mahakassapa Thera systematically questioned on teaching in sequence and in classified groups. Once a consensus was reached on a given content, the Sangha would chant it together so that the approved content would be settled as model for memorization and transmission. Because there was no method available at that time to record in writings, Dhamma and Vinaya that were agreed upon at the councils were assigned to groups of people to recite and memorize so as to preserve and transfer them through oral tradition. And this is the drawing of the first Buddhist council in action. The second Buddhist council was held 100 years after Buddha Parinippan to settle Vinaya rules. Vaishali was chosen as it was the place where 10 Vinaya rules were relaxed by a large group of wealthy Vachiyan Bhikkhu. His hotel at Walikaram, presided over by Revata Thera, supported by King Karaso, and 700 Arahant attended. This lasts for 8 months. Let me clarify that Vachi was an independent and powerful confederation or state ruled by a group of rulers of kings. It comprised of 8 tribes centered around Vaishali, and the leading tribe was Lichui. In addition, King Karaso was very fond of Vachuan Bhikkhu. However, he was then convinced to support the council by his younger sister and some senior Arahant. The cause of these Busu are as follows. Yasa Thera discovered that Vachiyan Bhikkhu had collected gold and silver from their disciples. He strongly objected or against this practice. Later, Vachiyan Bhikkhu offered a portion to Yasa Thera, but he refused to accept it. Yasa Thera blamed their disciple for giving gold and silver to Vachiyan Bhikkhu. Then Vachiyan Bhikkhu tried to impose a disciplinary action to Yasa Thera. Pushing him to apologize to their disciple. They want to convince their disciple that giving gold and silver was proper. Once more, Vachiyan Bhikkhu tried to suspend Yasa Thera from the order of Sangha with false claim in order to silence his objection and show that it was proper to accept gold and silver. Yasa Thera also found that Vachiyan Bhikkhu were performing other 9 non-permissible acts, which is what we call 10 unlawful points or tassa wattu. However, at that time, Vachiyan Bhikkhu were abundant and had a lack of central control. Therefore, a large number of respected bhikkhu is needed to settle down that 10-point acts were a vinaya. Yasa Thera had to gather sufficient number of bhikkhus who agree with him. So he decided to seek for help from bhikkhu of the West who were more conservative in their practice. He visited Samputa Thera, who agreed with him. Then he and 140 bhikkhu decided to consult with Revata Thera, who was excellent in Dhamma and Vinaya. He agreed that they should question Vachiyan Bhikkhu about 10-point acts. Revata Thera decided to arrange second Buddhist council and inspired by mixed behavior of wealthy Vachiyan Bhikkhu. However, Vachiyan Bhikkhu tried to escape the investigation by attempting to buy Revata Thera with gift of requisites, asking Uttara Thera, which is Revata Thera personal attendant, to influence him to accept 10-point acts proposed by Vachiyan Bhikkhu. Offering leadership to Uttara Thera if he dismissed Revata Thera request to prohibit avinaya behavior of Vachiyan Bhikkhu. Then Revata Thera, on knowing this, instantly dismissed Uttara from duty of his personal attendants. Revata Thera then approached Sapakamin Thera, a well-respected bhikkhu of 120 years old, whose ordination preceptor of Upachaya was Ananta Thera. The powerful Vajrayan bhikkhu, impressive representative of the Sangha, were made with 700 arahants. And the procedure is as follows. Revata Thera would question Sapakamin Thera in front of the Sangha on each of 10 point acts. Sapakamin Thera would refer to a place where the act was first committed and punishment which will be conferred for the offense. A committee of 8 bhikkhus, 4 from the east and 4 from the west, was appointed to consider answer given by Sapakamin Thera in order to make a final decision following a vote. Results are: the council decided that 10-point practice of Vajrayan bhikkhu were unlawful and against original disciplinary rules, and further agreed that original Vinaya prescribed by Buddha should be maintained without changes. Finally, the Sangha proceeded to respect and all Vinaya rules which were approved. Consequences of these council are: Vajrayan bhikkhu did not accept an unanimous decision of the council and decide to split from Orthodox Sangha, forming a separate community called Mahasamgika or Great Assembly. Later, they held their own council and were able to invite 10,000 people to gather at Patalibut. It is assumed that Mahasamgika is the origin of Mahayana Buddhism. People who firmly believe in original Buddha teachings were known as Sthavarivada or doctrine of the elders, or Theravada. There became a great breakup of the Sangha 100 years after Buddha Parinibbana, become known as Great Schisms, a great breakup. After second Buddhist councils, 18 Buddhist schools exist up to King Asoka period. That are Sthavarivada lead to 12 schools, and Mahasamgika led to 6 schools. And this is the drawing of the second Buddhist council in action. The third Buddhist council took place about 236 years after Buddha passing away. It was held at Asokaram in Patalibut and presided over by Moggalliput Tiksa Thera. It was under royal patronage of King Asoka, and this occurred at the 17 years of King Asoka's enthronement when he was 72 years old. King Asoka was originally a particularly ambitious and cruel man who attained the throne by killing all of his father's sons, except his own real brother from the same mother. He went on to conquer neighboring states, causing uncountable deaths and destructions. However, King Asoka eventually converted to Buddhism. He then ruled according to Buddhist principles of non-violence and compassion, and his empire flourished greatly. He spread Buddhism throughout India through rock edicts and pillars, which had important teaching inscribed on them. He used his vast wealth to build countless stupa, temples, and vihara throughout India, and provided generous support to the Sangha. However, this flourishing led to many unwholesome and greedy persons or people infiltrating the Sangha to enjoy generous requisite from royal support. They show no interest in true Dhamma and Vinaya, held wrong belief or views, and preach deviating Dhamma. King Asok then asked respected senior Bhikkhu, Mokkaliputtissa Thera, to help remedy these regretful situations. So Thera select 1,000 Arahant from 60,000 Bhikkhu to recite and confirm Dhamma and Vinaya. This took 9 months to complete. The king also questions Bhikkhu. The king also questioned Bhikkhu from many monasteries, and those who held wrong view were exposed and immediately expelled from the Sangha. In this case, the Sangha was eradicated of guilty belief, corrupt and fake Bhikkhu. Abhidhamma, which provides theoretical framework of Buddhist doctrine, was also recited and organized. It was then referred as Abhidhamma Pitaka. As a result, the Pitaka has been established. In addition, the 5th book of Abhidhamma Pitaka, called Kathawattu, a point of controversy, was compiled and included to examine and disprove deviating Theravada doctrine and Buddha teachings. By the way, the most significant achievement of these councils was the sending of missionary Bhikkhu to 9 different regions around India. And the most important and successful mission was to Sri Lanka. In this case, it was led by King Asok's own son, Mahintera, who converted Sri Lankan King Tewa Nampiya Itsa and eventually all his group to Buddhism. The Pitaka, which was memorized by heart, was also brought over to Sri Lanka as well. This is the drawing of the 3rd Buddhist Council in action. The first Buddhist councils upon arrival of Mahintera in Sri Lanka, King Tewa Nampiyatissa, after listening to Mahinta Thera teaching, became a lay disciple and established a Buddhist monastery called Mahavihan in Anuradhapura. The 4th Theravada Buddhist Council, which is rarely known by general Buddhists. I introduce this according to Mahavamsa, historical chronicle of Sri Lanka and other Sri Lankan traditions. This council was held around 244 BCE in Mahavihan, Tuparam, presided over by Mahinta Thera under auspices of King Thewa Nampayatissa. A primary purpose was to preserve original Buddha teaching as accurately as possible in order to maintain Buddhism in Sri Lanka. According to traditions, 60,000 Arahants took part in the assembly, and Aritha Thera, who is the first Sri Lankan pupils of Mahinta Thera, was assigned to recite Tipitaka. Then come the fifth Buddhist councils, in which a Buddha teaching is written on palm leaf. During the last century BCE, Sri Lanka suffered severe starvation, a civil war, and invasion from southern India, thereby forcing Buddhism into a severe decline. Reciting, memorizing, and oral transmission of Buddha teaching were rather impossible in this chaotic state. However, after chaotic situations, technique of writing had improved. Therefore, decision was taken to write down the entire Buddha teaching on palm leaf, means tree basket, which literally designed for its three major divisions of Buddha teachings. Tipitaka is generally known to Westerners as Pali Canon or Buddhist Canon because it contains fundamental principles of Theravada Buddhism, and texts of this canon is recorded in Pali or Makathot or Makati or Makot language. Tipitaka is not a single volume scripture, but an enormous set of scripture containing as many as 84,000 text units or Dhammakanta. There are major scriptures of Buddhist councils, of Buddha teachings. These are firstly Vinaya Pitaka, which is collection of disciplinary rules prescribed by Buddha for bhikkhu and bhikkhuni, containing 21,000 units. Secondly, Sutta or Suttanta Pitaka, the collection of discourse, which are specific teachings that were adaptively explained by Buddha to suit individuals, place, and event or situation in questions, together with supplemental materials containing 21,000 units. And the third one is Abhidhamma Pitaka, the collection of teaching with the ultimate explanation that are purely fundamental or academic, without reference to any individuals or events, containing 42,000 units. Each scripture of Tipitaka is classified into sections and further classified into a complex subsection, which is not my focus for today's presentation. So, I would like to end my presentation with the Buddha final orders. Anand, the doctrine and discipline I have set forth and laid down for you, all shall be your teacher after I have passed away, from Maha Parinibbana Sutta. And I would like to give you a take-home message like this. For the past 2,611 years, Buddha teaching have shown the path towards enlightened a human life. In the modern world, I believe that Buddha teachings may be the only hope for future. And please don't forget to remember the following phrases. Those who see the Dhamma see the Buddha. So, thank you for your attention. Sadhu, 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 anumodhami.